Welcome to another episode of AI with Alaa. Today we have a special guest, one of the best storytellers in the market, if not the best storyteller in the market, someone who I always enjoy conversing with and I learn a lot from. Hani Khalaf, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ala. It's really a pleasure to be with you here, and likewise. I really enjoy our conversations.
I always do. What's happening, man? Every time, if it's even only 1 week between our meetings, AI is moving at an extremely fast pace, that there is always something new that I haven't caught up with or you haven't caught up with. What's happening?
Well, AI is the talk of the town now. Talk of the business, talk of the people. Whenever I meet somebody on a personal level, they know I'm an AI, they want to learn something. Hey, how do I scale myself? How do I learn? Everybody is eager. Of course, on the business, this is, the daily conversations we have with our customers, with everybody in government, enterprises. A lot of things are happening. It's an exciting technology. I've been in the industry for 29 years now. I've never seen something like this. The pace of change that is happening every day is crazy, actually.
Crazy.
To the point where it's really hard to keep up.
Yes.
But I use AI to keep up, actually. So I have some tools running research for me every day, summarizing the news for me that are relevant.
Hala.
And you have to do this because there's a lot of noise and there's lots of, useless news, let's say, out there. So you really have to use AI to filter what is good, what you need to know.
Hala. Now, I want to know more about these tools. But first, in your opinion, how much of this AI is hype and how much of it is reality?
Is AI a hype? I don't think so. I think it's a technology that's gonna stay with us, grow, and be part of everybody's life. And when I mean everybody, I say on the personal level and on the business level. The reason for the hype is that there's lots of investments, probably crazy investments in AI everywhere. Billions of dollars being put in infrastructure, in startups. And people are wondering, like, what is the ROI on this? How is it going to happen? Now, I think what's going to happen is that not all these investments will have a return. Okay, so some of these startups, some of these investments will not generate a return and just go away. Most other investments will, once an enterprise sees a value of AI, they will just clinch to it. They will adopt it and they will start going from one success to another. So it's not a matter of, whether it's going to stay or not. It's going to stay. It's just going to move in different directions as the technology evolves, because every day something new comes in and you really need to know, okay, how is that going to affect me as a person and as a business?
Yes. So we both agree that AI is here to stay. We both agree that AI will be woven into the fabric of our economy, our society, our future as humanity. Maybe our humanity itself. We'll leave the philosophical discussions till the end. But some people say that on the short term, this bubble is overdue to burst. On the short term, they make comparisons to the dot-com bubble, where, yes, the internet was invented and it became everywhere, but there was a bubble. It was overheated and then it burst. The internet itself did not go away, did not stop being useful. In fact, it became more useful, but there was a lot of flush of the unneeded, weak players in the market. The technology itself persisted, and changed the world. Do you think something similar will happen to AI? And if yes, how big? Is it going to be a crash like the dot-com bubble, or will it be a correction?
Yes, the pattern is the same. Uh, although I think it's more intense and it's going to touch more every aspect of life. And I believe it's more of a correction, not a bubble, not a burst. So investments in infrastructures, data centers, these massive data centers which have GPUs and accelerators, this will continue. And these will be used eventually. When it comes to startups, I guess, and investment on startups, I think the correction will be a bit more difficult because there's lots of startups which will disappear.
Yeah.
I've seen, on a daily basis, I see startups which are more of like GPT wrappers. They're just, and I ask them actually a very simple question. How long does it take somebody to reach where you are today if they were to start today? And if they tell me 4 to 6 months, I say this is a red flag. You really need to have a differentiator. And this is one of the biggest challenges today for AI startups is to be different. And that's another question I always ask. What is your differentiator? Tell me in 60 seconds why you are different from all the other solution providers that are doing something similar to you.
Yeah.
And if they don't answer, I say again, that's a red flag for you. You need to go and sit and think what you're doing. You don't want to end up being just a me too in the market. And there's lots of me too in the market today.
Yeah. So I have an opinion about the rappers. I'm not in principle against them 100%. But before I debate you on this topic, can you please explain to our audience what do we mean when we say a ChatGPT wrapper or a Gemini wrapper?
Okay, it's a nice thing to explain. So a GPT wrapper is a company, somebody who creates a solution that has a nice interface for the users to see and use. But in the core of it, it is dependent on tools like external tools, public tools like ChatGPT or Anthropic or Perplexity or anybody. And they use API calls. They just they send the request to these tools to do something and get back to it. And I see two problems there with these things. First, anybody can create an interface, similar interface. Actually, today I can just go to any solution and I can take a screenshot of the interface and I can go to a vibe coding tool and say, create a similar interface. It will do that in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So the copying is easy, very quick. And the other thing is you are dependent on somebody else and you don't really have any IP. And that makes it very easy to copy you. Plus, when these public tools change behaviors, change models, change versions, your solution now is dependent on what they do.
Yes.
It's not under your control.
Yes.
And this is, to me, a big problem because the whole thing about your solution that you're trying to building in the AI age is using the power of LLMs and generative AI. And if you are not in control, that means that your solution can break actually within one night.
Yes.
If ChatGPT changes from 4.0 to 5 or to 5.1, and OpenAI changes the behavior of the LLM altogether, then your solution is dependent on that and might change. This is really the issue I find with GPT wrappers.
Cool. So let me push a little bit against that, right? I don't think that building a wrapper in principle is a bad thing. If you are actually doing more value than just a thin wrapper. Let's give a bad example and then let's just give good examples of wrappers. A bad example of a wrapper, you'll find them all over Play Store or App Store. Let's say I want to build Alaa GPT. And I build a nice interface and I tell you this is like ChatGPT but cheaper or better or whatever. And then you download this app, you chat with Alaa GPT, but actually Alaa GPT, what it's doing is it's taking your prompt, sending it back to ChatGPT or to Gemini, getting the answer from them, and then just relaying it to you. Okay, it's like drop shipping in the e-commerce days, right? This is obviously a thin wrapper, and big part of them are scams, and even the ones who are not scams are flimsy and don't have legs to stand on and don't have a business model. But then you have on the other side, you have companies like Cursor or Lovable. Lovable is a wrapper for Claude, right? Lovable is one of the fastest growing vibe coding apps. Kids are using Lovable to create apps. It's a wrapper for Claude. They don't have their own LLM. Perplexity, one can argue, it's a wrapper, although not a thin wrapper. They don't have their own LLM. They use someone else's LLM plus search. Same for Cursor, same for Rapplet. So being a wrapper on its own can have value, and these are a couple of examples. The second thing I want to push against is you flag the reliance on a lower layer as a weakness. You're saying these guys are relying on GPT-5 or on Gemini, and if these L1 layer one players change something, then your company is in trouble. But that the layered model has been, the stack model has been the correct model for software since ages. Most people build on top of TensorFlow or PyTorch, and they don't control what TensorFlow and PyTorch does. The phone, the mobile, when you build a mobile app, you're at the mercy of the layer one that is Apple or a layer one that is Android. The layered model is valid, and I don't think it's a bad model just because you're building on top of someone else's work and depending on them as infrastructure.
I agree with you an extent, but also disagree with you. If you compare PyTorch is an open framework. So building on it is absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Whereas building a wrapper around GPT 5.1 is not, because 5.1 is a closed source LLM. You don't have control of it. What I like to see more is the startup taking an open source LLM, okay, either using it as is or fine tuning it with some IP to make it difficult for somebody to copy it, because that's really where the IP is. For example, let's just give something very simple. So you are a company who wants to build something for law firms, maybe a tool to summarize cases, find cases, etc. You can use the public tools, fine, yes, and they will have lots of law information, but it is probably generic. Let's say you are a company in the UAE. How much does GPT 5.1 know about the laws of the UAE? It knows probably a good amount.
Whatever it was public.
Whatever is public, yes. And it probably got an instance of the laws when it was created.
Yes.
And then that's it. It stopped. Now, what if I'm as a solution for law firms, I take the laws of the UAE and I fine tune a model with those laws, so that now this model is not just a model. It's an open source model to start with, fine-tuned with the laws of the UAE, and I have a mechanism to update it continuously as new laws come in.
Absolutely.
I believe this is the value, and that will produce a much robust solution. Because now, to fine-tune, to do this, it's a combination of some technical work and then some work by lawyers who need to know, okay, if I fine tune, is that the right answer now? You need to test, of course, once you fine tune. And only then you have now an IP, which you can use with an interface, a nice interface, and then you have a solution. Somebody wants to copy you, they have to do the same.
Yes.
Which is take the laws, get some legal expertise, do this work, and then produce a solution. My issue is always, how long does it take somebody to copy you? Because in this age today, it's very easy to copy. And this is applicable to hardware and much more applicable to software. And if you want to be a successful startup and grow, you need to have this IP. You need to have this differentiator that differentiates you from the market. Okay,
so to summarize your advice to startups building an AI startup or an AI software, you're saying choose a domain. You gave an example, law, but it could be architecture, it could be healthcare, it could be retail, it could be hospitality, it could be government regulations. Choose domain expertise and work with a domain expert to validate the expertise of the AI agent or the AI software, let's say chat assistant that you're building, and fine-tune. Yeah, fine-tuning is the differentiator and domain expertise is the differentiator.
It's one aspect. Fine-tuning is one pattern, one way to use this. But of course, you can use retrieval augmented generation. You can use the technique. But the idea is have some IP in the solution that is not easy to copy.
Okay.
Because there is some innovation that you put technically and from the vertical within that tool.
Yes. Let's explain this, because you mentioned retrieval augmented generation, which is RAG. You mentioned fine-tuning. Okay. I would like us to explain these two things and the difference between them to the audience before going into this debate that is all over the developer circle today, whether we should actually be concerned with fine-tuning or whether RAG can solve all our problems. So let's give people a quick definition. I'll do fine-tuning, you'll do RAG. Okay, so let's take ChatGPT or GPT-5 as an example. GPT-5 is already a pre-trained model. It has been trained by OpenAI using hundreds of thousands of GPUs on every possible data point available on the internet. It costs $100 million plus per run, up to $1 billion. That's why they can only do it twice per year. That's why you don't have one new release every week. So that's called pre-training. No one can do pre-training except a handful of companies in the world. Unless you are OpenAI or Microsoft or Amazon or X or Anthropic or Oracle, you cannot do pre-training. If you want to create a customized AI assistant that knows your data, your company data, your business data, your industry data, your sector data, you don't start from scratch. You start from this pre-trained model, and you can go in one of two directions, either fine-tuning the model or RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Fine-tuning doesn't cost as much as pre-training. It could cost, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, but not hundreds of millions of dollars. And RAG is much less, costs tens of thousands of dollars. Fine-tuning includes training, a second phase of training. RAG does not include a second phase of training. Fine-tuning is taking this pre-trained model and then retrain it, but on a much smaller data set that is relevant to your business or to your data or to your customers or to your industry or to your products. Okay? While RAG is kind of not training. It's kind of taking this data and instead of asking the AI to ingest it, to be trained on it, to study it, dividing it into small chunks, putting it in a repository, we call it a vector database, and then telling the AI, now you have an open book. Every time we ask you a question, I want you to go to this open book and ground your answer in these information. And because you're not doing training when you do RAG, it's much cheaper. So there you go. We just explained what fine-tuning is versus what RAG is. Now we'll go back to you. What is the right approach? Should companies, when they want to create a customized AI for them, or startups that they want to create a domain expert, should they go the fine-tuning route or should they go the RAG or grounding route?
First thing I want to mention is that both fine-tuning and RAG solve one problem.
Yes.
Which is using an LLM that doesn't have your data.
Yes.
So the goal for both is to use the power of LLMs, but with your data.
Absolutely.
Your organization data, which OpenAI and the public tools don't have access to it normally. That's why. And the value of these LLMs is maximized when your data is involved in it. You're not asking a public question. So now the choice is really depends on the kind of data, how frequent the data changes.
Let's take the example you gave at the beginning.
Yes.
A startup trying to do a lawyer's GPT.
Yes.
For the UAE.
So let's say the laws of the UAE are typically lots of documents, might be tens, hundreds of documents. They might not change very often, or they might. I'm not really sure, but not very often. They don't change on a daily basis. They don't change
every day.
They don't change on a daily basis. They might issue maybe every couple of months. So,
and the big laws every few years.
Exactly. Now, the difference is that when something does not change very often, it's a good approach to fine tune. Okay, but it's not always the case. By the way, it's always this debate is always. Because fine-tuning requires a different kind of skill set than RAG. It's a bit more involved.
Data science.
Involved, yes. So now fine-tuning is becoming more and more affordable and easy. And there are cases where you can fine-tune with tens of hundreds of samples only. Okay.
Really?
Yes. So now it's becoming very easy in a way, relatively, to fine tune. Now, let's go back to the example. So laws and documents of the UAE don't change very often.
True.
So what I do, I can take an open source model and I can fine tune it.
Say Llama,
with the Llama, Mistral, and then I can fine tune it with these PDFs and documents, which means what I'm doing is I'm embedding these documents now as part of the LLM. So now the LLM has the laws of the UAE.
He studied them. He ingested them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what this will do effectively is when you ask that modified LLM questions, chances of hallucinations are much less because now it's there, it's data. Now, let's go back to RAG. RAG is more for when you want to create, when things are changing more dynamically in terms of documents. And when you want to also access live systems. So let me give you an example, actually, which might combine, actually, it's a RAG system. Let's say a company wants to create an HR bot, something for human resources, so that as an employee, I'm sitting at my desk, I want to see how many days of vacation do I have. So you go into that chatbot and you ask, how many days of vacation do I have? Now, normally, it's just a query into a database, the HR database, which keeps a log of all your vacations taken and how many days you're left, right? But it's not as simple as this because a lot of companies, for example, allow you to carry over some days past the calendar year or up to a certain date. So a normal human in HR would answer the question, but would say, you have 5 days, but by the way, you have to take them before the 31st of March. Yeah. So this is what a human. And the HR bot will behave the same. So now we're talking about something called agentic RAG, where it is taking the question, it is going to the HR database, checking the balance of that employee, then going to the vector database, which has the HR documents, policies of the company, checking this, and then saying, combining the two, and it will say, you have 5 days left, but you have to take them before March 31st, according to the organization policies.
Beautiful.
So this is now RAG.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do the company organization policies change often? No, but it might be simpler to do this in a RAG Okay, more cost effective.
Because the database is changing often, even if not the policy, but the
Yes.
number of days that Hani still have, this is dynamic.
Exactly.
So accessing a database like the HR database or the ERP that changes daily, you cannot take a copy of your ERP every day and ask your AI to ingest it using fine tuning. You have to do RAG.
Exactly. And sometimes when the data is big and doesn't change, let's say it's historical data, tens of thousands of PDFs that we've had as an organization, and we want to use that because a lot of organizations today have gathered data over years. They store them in archives, and they don't use them. And that data has a lot of valuable information. It's the IP, it's the expertise of the organization. So taking this, fine-tuning a model might be a good approach to bring the expertise of this organization back to life.
Absolutely.
And make it available for people to ask questions and use that expertise in a useful way.
Brilliant. So what about the cost factor? So the answer regarding whether your data is live or data doesn't change frequently, that's one decision criteria, fine-tuning versus RAG. What about the cost? I mean, some people say, I want to create a lawyer GPT or an expert AI, but to fine-tune it, for those technical among our audience, the difference between fine-tuning and RAG is whether you change the internal parameters of the neural network or you don't, and you just offer extra context in the context window. Yeah, so RAG is extra context accessible to the context window, and fine-tuning is actually changing the parameters internally. So people might say, if I want to create lawyer GPT and fine-tune it on the laws of a certain country, it will cost me $200,000 in training. That includes cloud compute, cloud storage, data scientists to actually do the model training. Versus if I'm doing RAG, that's a job. First of all, I don't need to pay a lot of compute to cloud providers. And I don't need to rent a lot of GPUs, cloud or on-prem. And I don't need a senior data scientist. I can just have an AI engineer build a RAG application for me. So instead of $200,000, I can pay $20,000 or $30,000. Why should I choose fine-tuning then?
A year ago, or maybe at the beginning, yes, I would say fine-tuning was expensive and was not cost effective for a lot of solutions and organizations. The costs of fine-tuning are coming down significantly.
Wow.
Yeah. So now we're going to start seeing more of these specialized, we call them SLMs.
Yes.
Small language models.
I love it.
Because do you really care if a language model knows everything about everything?
No.
Or do you want it specialized in healthcare, in law, or in education?
Absolutely.
I really need an expert who is expert in one domain. So I'm going to fine tune and make it expert in that domain. And I see this is the trend that's going to happen. Fine tuning costs are coming down. And by the way, RAG today is the dominant pattern.
Yes.
But we might see somebody might come up with a paper, some research, and make RAG obsolete.
Yes.
You never know. I mean, we were talking a while ago, the concept of CAG. Cache augmented generation.
Knowledge augmented generation.
No, cache.
Cache.
C.
Okay.
Cache augmented generation, which is another approach for takes actually the whole data and puts it, caches it in the memory, and then does the inferencing. It's another approach. It has its cons and pros. So what I want to say is RAG is what we have today, but in 6 months, you never know what's going to happen.
So how can you then advise whether a startup who's building the next expert AI or an enterprise who are building internally their own AI trained on their own data? Will your advice to them be, solid, choose fine tuning, or if you said go with RAG, but then you're mentioning it's dangerous because we can have another version of RAG or a better RAG in 6 months. How can people build on top of a ground that keeps shifting underneath them.
This is the challenge always with all these emerging technologies that are changing too fast. And AI, like I said, I've never seen technology change so fast, like AI. Like AI. There is no really clear answer to this. A lot of organizations stop and say, okay, this is changing by the day. When is the right time to start? What if I invest in this and this doesn't work? Or in 6 months becomes obsolete? That's a challenge that's always going to be there.
Yes.
There's no way around it, actually. But what you need to do first is make the decision to start and try to de-risk your journey as much as possible. So today, RAG is the pattern that is used. We'll use it. And we will adopt it. We'll make use of it for the use cases to achieve something. We find that fine-tuning actually is something that probably will not
go away.
Yeah. Yes, because it's
fundamental.
It's fundamental. Yeah, it's not a technique. It's just bringing, like I said, the LLMs, making them SLMs, and maybe fine tuning them.
Like propagation will stay. Gradient descent is not going away.
Exactly. The basics will not go away.
Yes.
Fine tuning a model. This is basics.
Yeah.
So it's not going to go away. So you have to be really very agile as an organization. You have to be ready to test a technology, deploy it, get the most out of it while it's there. And then be ready to change to something else. Okay. And by the way, I heard you mention cloud and on-prem. And this is a big decision that organizations need to have, which is, do I deploy in the cloud? Do I deploy on-prem?
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
What's your answer to this question?
So you mentioned cloud and on-prem.
Yes.
During the discussion just now. And this is a decision actually a lot of organizations are struggling with. What do I do? Do I go on-prem? Do I go on cloud? Yes. Maybe I can give you a glimpse of...
Let's tackle that.
What we're seeing, what I'm seeing actually. A lot of organizations, when they started their Gen AI journey, they went to clouds. And because it was much easier to start there.
Of course.
It's easy. You go and spin off some machines, you have some GPUs available, and you start building and testing. And then they started getting the results out of these. And then they applied them on a subset of their data. Because you cannot take all your data at the beginning. So you're testing on a subset of your data and you're going there. And then they wanted to scale the use case, both on data and on number of users. And that's when sometimes they would hit an issue where costs become really prohibitive. Why it's prohibitive? Because you are still testing the use case. So you have not really seen the real ROI of it. Okay, you know that you have to do it. It's one of the things you have to do, but you have not seen the adoption yet, etc. So cost is one issue, because now with scaling a number of users, cost becomes an issue. And the other issue is the data itself. So you could accept to get some subset of your data, put it outside your data center. But every organization has some data that they cannot take outside. It's very, very private. And this again depends on the vertical and the industry.
Yes.
You know, sometimes, for example, healthcare might have something really, really private that should not go outside the premise of the organization. Yeah. And that's why today a lot of organizations have started in clouds and they went back on premise for some of their use cases. Yes. So it's neither on-prem only or cloud only. It's both. And you have to really be smart about it, think about it in terms of scalability of users and the data. If it's a small number of users, relatively, the data is not private, go cloud. It's a no-brainer. But if it's private data, a lot of data, and you need scalability in terms of users, consider on-prem. But before you make a decision, you need to check the cost of each.
Yes.
It's a bit of a long exercise, but it's worth doing before you take the step.
Absolutely.
Because once you go either way, it's hard to change.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now what with the reasoning that is happening with models, reasoning means more token consumption. And that means more consumption, more tokens, and more cost if you are in the cloud.
Yeah.
Which you don't want. When you go on-prem, maybe I'm a bit biased for on-prem, but I see that if you are using reasoning and you're going to use lots of reasoning, it is more cost effective to run it on-prem for these use cases on the long term.
Yes.
Because you always have to think 3 years minimum when
your business case should be 3 to 5 years.
Well, 5 is a long time in AI. 3, I would say, is a good time, a good period to calculate your costs here or there.
So let me push a little bit against your bias. Yes, you could make the case that reasoning models or inference time compute are increasing the cloud bill for people who are building, training, and deploying their AI in the cloud. And we can do a calculation and prove that on-prem is cheaper on the long run, 3 years plus. That said, it's not only the cost of hardware, it's not only the cost of compute and memory, it's also the expertise needed to build and maintain this stack. When you build your Gen AI application on Azure or AWS or these guys, you're not only renting compute and memory from them, you're renting a complete stack of software infrastructure from I don't know, the AI frameworks to the containerization and the Kubernetes, and there are tens of modules that make this stack on top of which app developers can just start building in a cloud. And if you want to replicate this on-prem, hardware will be the least of your concerns. You can easily buy the best of breed hardware much cheaper than you can rent them on the long run. The problem is, where do you find the wizards, the engineers that can build the stack for you, have it running 24/7 uptime, and maintain it and keep updating it? So that's my pushback.
Actually, what you bring as a point brings another challenge with going on-prem and cloud, which is typically when you go on cloud, yes, you use cloud tools, use the available tools that are in the cloud, and now you are attached to them.
Yes.
You cannot get out. And that's, to me, an issue because now you cannot go out. So I've seen startups mostly and organizations where you go in the cloud, you are using the cloud tools, all the cloud tools available, because like you said, it's easy to build. They're all boxes that are available. You want an LLM, here's one.
Yeah, Lego bricks.
Exactly. You're building with these Legos. Exactly. That's actually a good analogy. You're building with Lego bricks in the cloud. But with those bricks, you don't know what's happening because these are just boxes for you that we're giving to you, to run. Now, you make a decision to get out. So getting out when you're doing this is much, much more difficult because now there's no equivalent for that Lego brick that is easy to find or very apparent on-prem. So let's say you are using some cloud and you're using GPT-5 in it, okay? Because it's available there. Yep. It's a service that's offered there. Now you want to go on-prem. And your goal is to disconnect from the public LLMs, of course. So now you have to find an open source LLM equivalent.
At least, yeah.
So you're going to use something open source. But that open source equivalent will not give you the exact quality and same results as the GPT-5.
Correct. One. Yeah.
So what you need to do now, you need to choose that equivalent. Now, you've used a firewall from the cloud. Now you need another firewall here. Yeah. You've used a vector database that's probably very easy to ingest data in the cloud.
Yeah.
Now you have to use another vector database. Okay. So now you end up with different components that in your architecture.
Yes.
Which means your whole solution now.
You need to re-architect.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I tell people. You need to re-architect the solution. A safe way to do things, if you want to do it, is use the cloud for testing. But do not depend solely on cloud tools. You can still use the cloud infrastructure, cloud ease of use, but with open source tools, okay, that are easily migrated. So you can run your test environment in the cloud with Llama.
Yes.
Use Llama. Llama 70B, for example, is one of the. So now it's Llama 70B, the open source. Now you decide to go back, you bring the same Llama 70B and you can deploy on-prem. So now there is less architecture, less changes, and you can guarantee the quality of the results and how your software will behave and use case.
That's another good argument for the cloud. But you didn't answer my question. Where are we going to find this team of high-skilled technical wizards that can run a full stack of software on top of my on-prem GPUs so that I can train and serve my AI model and my AI app on top of my AI model locally on-prem? Where are these people? I mean, I live in this market, you live in this market. They're few and far between.
Yes. Actually, the skill gap is an issue in a lot of organizations. Now, for smaller organizations, they will probably not invest in these skills and they will just outsource this to somebody who will build it for them in the cloud, probably because, like you said, they don't have the expertise or the willingness to invest in something and keep maintaining it and updating it. They just want the output of it because they're small. So you have to do it in the cloud.
Yeah.
But for a lot of organizations, what we're seeing now is they are reskilling a lot of their developers and internal teams to be able to do this and be able to bring things on premise. So yes, there's a skill gap today, but it is organizations are reskilling developers. I'm seeing DevOps teams being reskilled now to adopt tools on-prem.
Good.
I'm seeing this as a trend now.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to continue because if AI becomes so important for the organization and a lot of decisions in the organizations will be done with AI, I'd better off have that AI under my control and fully under a workforce that I have in my organization.
Okay, that's a nice debate, and I'm enjoying the different perspective. Let me also push against it from the other side. You said if AI will become a main factor, an important factor in decision making and running the business, it's better to be on-prem. What about Salesforce? What about Oracle? Every company has a CRM, every company has an ERP, and unless they are national security companies, all their data for CRM and ERP is hosted on the cloud. And these are core systems. These are systems of records that are essential in them conducting their business and taking any decisions. And, running the business is going fine and the decisions are going fine, even it's fully on the cloud. What's a drawback of people keeping their CRM and ERP in the cloud?
For these kind of systems, you have no choice actually, because the direction even of these vendors is to bring you into the cloud and make it less attractive for you to run them on-prem. Even sometimes almost impossible to run them on-prem. So you have no choice here but to use these tools. But there are certain data sets in any organization. I'm not talking about ERP or CRM. Talking, for example, about healthcare data. Healthcare data, like very private healthcare data that
protected by HIPAA
organizations, it has a lot of PII in it. I believe these should never go on the cloud. So yes, your CRM might be running in the cloud, your ERP in the cloud, your office, your email is running on the cloud. But there's certain data sets and the associated algorithms that work on them. And, they need to stay on-prem. And the reason I'm saying this is we're seeing more polarization happening now in the world.
Yes.
Right. And I believe it's safer for organizations that are in certain domains to protect this data, protect their algorithms, okay, and have them on-prem, again, for certain verticals, for certain data sets.
Yes.
For a lot of things, you have no choice, which is like CRM, ERP. You have no choice. You have to run them there. And you have to trust that that provider is not revealing your information or your data to anybody.
So far, I can extract 2 or 3 advices that you gave to organizations, enterprises, businesses, government organizations that want to embark on this AI journey. What I could extract so far from your talk is you need to be agile and build with agility because it's a fast-moving environment. B, you need to start with an existing model, but then fine-tune it on your own data because that's where the value is. And 3, upskill and reskill your internal IT team to build some kind of the skill set needed for cloud engineers, but instead of them being AWS cloud engineers or Azure cloud engineers, to be engineers for your own cloud on-prem. And 4, you are strongly advising for on-prem training and inferencing, even if the original testing is on the cloud. Yeah. Did I summarize your list of advices, like strategic advices to enterprises correctly?
Yes. Now, for the fine tuning, it's not always fine tuning. You have to choose. Yeah, you have to choose. You have to really think about it. The key here is before you jump into things, sit and think about it and ask the experts about the right approach to decide if it is RAG or fine tune. Don't just jump into fine tuning. We saw a lot of organizations in the maybe a year and a half ago jump into training and LL and fine tuning, and then they found out it's a long exercise. It's the wrong approach. So choose the right approach. That's what I want to say. Fine tuning. Fine tuning now is less. Mostly it's now RAG. RAG is because it's cost effective, easier. The skills required are simpler. So most organizations are going for RAG, but you should also consider fine-tuning for certain use cases. The skill sets, you are right. Build skill sets that are AI skill sets, not specific to any provider.
Yes.
And the future is open source. All the innovation in AI is happening in the open source. Okay, so focus on open source and avoid by any means being locked, whether into a cloud, into a framework, into any vendor, because locking means you're going to be slowed down and then you're not going to see the innovation that is happening in the open source community.
There you go. These are Hani Khalaf's top 5 key strategic advices for enterprises and organizations who want to embark on this AI journey. So let's talk about open source. How do you see the activity in the open source community today on the layer 1, the large language models, and on top of that? I mean, people talk a lot about Llama. People talk a lot about Mistral, the French company. We've seen even OpenAI release a 20 billion model called GPT OSS. And obviously there are DeepSeek R1, there are others. So on one hand, you can see a lot of activity happening on the open source. You go to Hugging Face and it's a beehive of activity. On the other hand, let me again play the devil's advocate, Hani, here, because I know you're a big champion of open source. When I try my Llama chat application, it's terrible, man. My Meta chat application. It's terrible, and it's empowered by Llama. So if I compare ChatGPT that I use on a day-to-day, Gemini that I use on day-to-day, Claude, which is amazing, and I use it on day-to-day, and then I try to do Meta AI, it's terrible. If Meta and Llama are the poster kids for open source, then as a user, I'm not happy with open source. Doesn't seem promising to me. Why am I wrong?
You're not absolutely wrong, but you have to choose the right open source tool for what you want to do. We remember the DeepSeek moment.
Yes.
That happened almost a year ago now.
Yes.
Also, yes.
November, December last year.
So this was a DeepSeek moment where actually it is caused by open source. It is somebody innovative came up with a paper, research, created a model that is much more efficient and released it in the market as an open source. And guess what? A lot of people start adopting it and still adopting it today. But and this is not just one. There will be lots of DeepSeek moments. So it's a race. The race is faster in the open source, okay? Because it's open. It's everybody's contributing to it, coming up with things. You need to be smart about it and choose the right tools for you. So if you're using for coding, you might use something. And the proof that open source is the way to go is, like you said, OpenAI only had closed sources up till a few months back.
Yes.
Then they were kind of forced to release some open source.
They were bullied by Elon Musk.
Exactly. They were forced in a way to release open source, which means open source is the way to go. How this will evolve, I really don't know. But I believe if you leave things open source, the innovation will happen much faster. Because when it is closed, controlled by an entity, a group, they cannot move as fast as the rest of the world. Plus, they might have certain goals from moving into a certain direction, delaying the technology, moving into a different direction. Whereas with open source, it's really about innovation.
Yes.
Doing things better, faster. Absolutely. There's no agenda. And this is, to me, is a better approach.
Agree. And it has proven its validity and its success. I mean, Linux is one of the most successful products of the open source philosophy and the open source mentality.
Correct.
In the history of technology. And even though if you're an end user, you're not familiar with Linux operating system because you're using either PC, Windows, or Mac, but Linux is used on most servers in the world that are powering, whether they are web servers, whether they are, banking, and whether servers, whether they are, aviation, hospitality. The entire internet is running on Linux. Your phone is running on a version of Linux made to be Android as a higher layer.
But there's a catch here, because open source is great. But again, it's dependent on the community for any fixes. So what organizations should do is adopt open source, but have some kind of enterprise support on it. So you gave the example of Linux. An organization can decide to use the vanilla Linux that is open source and use it. But as you put critical systems on it, somehow down the road, you will need support on that operating system.
Or experts, or a team of expensive experts.
Or a bug fix, something that happened and you need a change. So you can go with a enterprise supported Linux, for example. You can go with Ubuntu, Red Hat, SUSE. That's the right thing. So open source, but with some enterprise support, because eventually as an organization, you don't want to end up fixing the operating system that is just running your systems. You want somebody to take care of that while you focus on your business.
Yes. How do you see the market share split in AI in the next few years when the dust settles? Today, there are multiple horses in the race, many tens of horses in the race. You have many companies in the arena. When the dust settles, do you expect this to be a monopoly like Google search was for 20 years, or a duopoly like Apple versus Android in mobile, or a triopoly like Microsoft, Amazon, Google in cloud, or an open market with 10 players or 20 players?
I believe it's going to be an open market because, again, this is a very critical technology, both for countries and both for organizations. And like I said, as we're seeing more polarization in the world, we're seeing, different groups in the world. I don't want to get into a lot of politics here. They will not accept that their systems are controlled by somebody else. So they will create their own. And it's not going to be one. Even there will be no monopoly within one group. Okay, so if we take Europe, for example, as one of the entities there, it's not going to be one European entity that's going to control everything. It's going to be multiple, maybe 5, 10. Okay.
You're talking about companies, not political entities.
I'm talking about LLMs and providers that are within the continent. There will be 5, 10, but there will all be pure European. Okay?
Do you think Europe will be able to do 5 LLMs? I mean, I can only see Mistral.
It's 5 providers. It's really 5 sovereign providers. Some of them will have LLMs, like Mistral, who also started creating LLMs, but then moved into the solutions.
Yes, application.
Yes, and a lot of them actually, the LLM providers, they started by creating LLMs, and then they moved into
up the stack
to the application because they want to monetize.
Yes,
you want to monetize what they're doing. So I see a couple of them will be in Europe. Lots of them will be in the US. Some of them will be more in the East. Even our region here will create our own. The UAE actually is at the forefront of this.
Awesome.
Creating Falcon, Jace, and other LLMs. So it's a race. And whatever you create private to yourself to serve your needs and the needs of your people, your companies, this is how it's going to be.
That's awesome.
So it's not going to be monopolies or even duopolies or triopolies. It's going to be multiple.
Cool. So you mentioned that the UAE is already creating Jace by, Mohammed bin Zayed University of AI and Cerebras. You have TII who created Falcon. In Saudi Arabia, they have Alam. Also, MBZ UAI created Nanda for an LLM fine-tuned on Hindi language. How can we start seeing what's missing before we start seeing people using Jace or Falcon instead of ChatGPT?
The quality of the LLM needs to evolve because people will assess these tools based on quality.
Yes.
Okay. And it's like I said, it's a race.
Yes.
It's a mouse and cat race. Today, you can be better, and there's global benchmarks for these.
LM Arena.
Yes.
Go to LM Arena.
You have to use the global benchmarks, and your goal as a country, organization, or the entity creating LLMs is to always go and win those benchmarks in the global benchmarks. And of course, the actual use is the test. So people use it, the adoption.
Yes.
So use it, get feedback, and then enhance, and have like more local content. Because, for example, actually, I was having some debate on chat yesterday with somebody about, how to create an LLM that is an expert in UAE culture, for example. And the debate was, should we talk to ChatGPT and tell them that they need to put more UAE culture in ChatGPT, or
we take a version of it and fine tune it.
Take an open source model and fine tune it on local UAE culture, which is now under our control. We can put as much of it as possible because in ChatGPT and these similar tools, almost only 3% of the content is Arabic. 3%. Which is
I'm not surprised.
Negligible.
Yeah.
What if I create an LLM, a tool where 98% of it is Arabic?
Yes.
And this is specialized in this domain. It is really, really good. It's like having an expert here locally who knows the whole history, the whole culture of the UAE since the creation 54 years ago. Okay, because we're celebrating these days the 54th Eid al-Ittihad.
Happy National Day.
Happy National Day to UAE. So what if I have this expert which has all this knowledge? I put it in a tool, then you can ask it. I believe this is the right thing to do, rather than depend on external parties and convince them to embed my data into their tools.
Yes. So what you're saying is the way ahead for local developers of models and trainers of models is localization.
Localization.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I mean, I'm skeptic when someone tells me, okay, we built this local model, we built this model in the UAE, we built this model in Saudi Arabia. I love the spirit, I love the engineering, I love the expertise, I love the plan. But my question becomes then, is this something strategic that you want to take all the way and keep growing and growing and then compete in LM arena and then one day see it in the top 10 neck and neck with Claude and Anthropic and and Gemini and ChatGPT? Or is it something like a prototype, a proof of concept that we can do something like that? Because we have such high hopes and ambitions. We want our region and we want the country, but more broadly the region, to become a creator of technology, an exporter of technology, not just a net importer or consumer of technology. So apart from the obvious path, which is localization, because the big player will not pursue localization in Arabic, what else should these local LLM players follow to be relevant in people's day-to-day life? Like ChatGPT is in my day-to-day life, but Jace is not yet.
So I go back to the point you mentioned, strategic. I believe it is strategic, but on the regional level.
Mm-hmm.
So these LLMs, if it is an LLM that is Arabic, it should not go and compete with OpenAI and Anthropic and the likes, because the intention of it is not to compete there. It's the intention is to make an LLM, a tool that is very good in Arabic. Now, Arabic is not the language of the world, right? It's a language of the region.
The Arab world, yeah.
So it is a strategic project for the region, for the country. And that's what we need to focus on. Having LLMs that can compete globally, yes, this is going to be a challenge because that requires lots of efforts, lots of money, to be spent, on this. And you have to question, why am I doing it? Yes, if you want to have your spot on the AI table, I call it, of the world, or the AI players in the world, you spend this money, you do this, you create a global tool that is used by everyone, and you make it good. But then you're competing with like you said, the giants. I'd rather compete regionally here with myself and give a tool that is available for my users, locally here, and be good in what I'm doing only. I
think the UAE already has a seat on the table of AI being discussed everywhere in the world. The biggest and largest table, whether it's the discussing it with the president of the United States, discussing it with all the big players in the world. But what we see from the news is the UAE is following the path of investment and of infrastructure to have this seat on the table, and not just seat on the table, to lead. UAE is currently among the leading nation when it comes to AI strategy, when it comes to AI investment, whether investing in American and European AI startups or scale-ups or large companies, or whether the commitment to build a 5 gigawatts AI factory in Abu Dhabi that was revealed back in May. So yes, the UAE is doing the investment in AI. Yes, UAE has the AI strategy. Yes, UAE is doing the AI infrastructure. Will it go more up the stack and start creating our own LLM that competes with GPT-5 or GPT-7, or whether we will just build on top of these LLMs and then fine-tune them and Arabize them or localize them? This remains to be seen.
It's always a balance. And you are definitely right. I mean, UAE today has a very important seat on the table globally. Um, it's always a balance. I need to take knowledge from the outside and use what's being used outside. So I will continue to use GPT and ChatGPT. There's no way around this. But also, I need to create my own IP that is localized to me. I need to have this. And the UAE is doing both. So Falcon has become now a name that you see globally.
Yes.
When I go to platforms and I am looking at platform, I see the name Falcon mentioned as one of the LLMs that are being considered, or at least in the top 10 mentioned LLMs globally.
Beautiful.
So this is the attempt to have a footprint globally. Okay, but it's not an easy task. And then there is the localization. I think localization is more important because localization means my content, what I want to give to people, how I want my tools to respond, the data that I want them to adopt, think of, will become in these LLMs. So I want to have these. And I think we're just seeing the start. So I believe the UAE will continue playing in the global race, trying to develop the global ones, global tools, LLMs, and also focus on local ones also here. I believe personally, I believe the local ones are the important ones because that's going to be unique to your applications, your people, your language and culture.
Nice.
This is very important.
Yeah. So we talked about AI for startups. We talked about AI for enterprise and organizations. We stepped out to the larger market and we talked about AI for national strategy and geopolitics. Let's go back to the smallest scale possible on the personal level.
Individuals.
How are you? Let's start with you. How do you use AI in your day-to-day life and in your day-to-day work? What is your stack of choice? What are your tools of choice?
I definitely use AI on a daily basis. On the personal level, whenever I have an idea, I need somebody to brainstorm with me. I use ChatGPT sometimes and DeepSeek sometimes, just to get 2 points of view. I believe they give
the Americans and the Chinese.
Yes, the two the two sides of the world. So I like to get the two opinions and just compare them. And sometimes the differences are interesting. Sometimes you see ChatGPT being more conservative, more AI
politically
answers,
correct.
whereas the other one is more open, more innovative, providing different answers. So
interesting.
I use both. That's on the personal level. Whenever I need now to create presentations for the personal level, I use AI to gather the content of the conversation, create a document. I throw it at Gamma. Gamma is my choice today for presentations. I love it. And you can get a presentation that is 90% ready to go. Yeah, with the template, theme, everything. And it's getting much better and better every day.
When this episode becomes viral, we're going to charge Gamma for a product placement.
Yeah. So it's one of the nice tools. I mean, if ever anybody asks me today, presentations, I immediately say Gamma. It's one of the first. I've seen other ones try to compete with it, but this is the differentiator. Gamma started early. They created a nice differentiation for themselves. So even the tools that came after are not as good. Still, yes, they and this is the start of the differentiator that you want to create for yourself as a startup. Work level, at work, we have tools that we use internally to help us do our work better. One of these tools is something like ChatGPT, but it has access to internal information. And documents and data that is not available outside work. So when we ask,
either fine tuning or RAG.
Yes, it's a both. It's a combination of RAG, fine tuning. It's a very, very complicated architecture because as an organization, we have zettabytes of data, massive history of data. So, and when you ask the tool the question, it will determine. You can actually guide it. If you don't guide it, it will determine whether I need to get this information internally or externally or both. And it's just getting more and more interesting. Most of the internal tools today are like chatbots that help you do your work more efficiently, answer questions quickly. But eventually, we're going to have agents for each employee. So me as an employee, I will have a fleet of agents that will be running with me on a daily basis. It's like having, a secretary.
Yeah.
Multiple of them. A team running with you 24/7. Preparing you in the morning. You wake up, one agent would have, looked at your schedule, told you this meeting is canceled. By the way, you need to do this. The thing that you do in the morning where you look at your calendar and you say, okay, I have to start here. I need to leave by this time. I need to do this. Oh, this was canceled. Or let's reply to this and say, I'm going to attend this meeting. All this thinking that you do on yourself. Another agent might do some research for you.
Yes.
And say, okay, we're going to visit customers X, Y, and Z. Okay. Here's a one-pager about each, their status, what they're doing, what they have been announcing in the news, so that when you go into the meeting, you are prepared, you're up to date without having to do this meeting preparation.
Yes.
Another agent might look at what a certain customer has acquired from you, what they are looking to acquire, and prepare you from this perspective, not from the industry or what they're doing, but from what they have bought from you. So a fleet of agents that's going to be running with you, helpers, call them, that run and do the work for you so that you can do more during your day. Instead of having 3 meetings because you have a lot of admin work that you're doing, preparing for the meetings, you'll be able to do 6 meetings.
Yeah.
You'll be able to talk to 6 customers or 6 prospects, etc.
So your work is augmented with AI agents.
Yes.
Now, let's explain to our audience what we mean by agents, because some of the examples you mentioned can be done today with standard AI assistants without agentic AI assistants, right? Asking AI to research a company before I arrive to the meeting and brief me, brainstorming with my AI, summarizing my meeting, creating all these presentations. I could argue that none of this requires an AI agent in the proper definition of an AI agent. I can do all of these things using the existing non-agentic AI tools like ChatGPT and Gamma, for example. What is the difference in the scenario you're describing when you have a team of agents working for you rather than you using 2 AI tools like ChatGPT and Gamma?
So when you use ChatGPT and Gamma, you initiate a request towards them. You are requesting something from them. They reply.
Yes.
And they stop. And then you have to continue and ask for something else. And then they reply. That's one mode of using generative AI. Agents, to put it in a simple way, it's a piece of software that is given a task or a goal. It will plan how to implement that to reach the goal.
Yes.
It will have access to the systems needed to achieve that goal. So that's the
internet, the internal database, the
internal system,
your data,
your email,
ERP.
Exactly. And that's the word agency, because you're giving it agency. That's why it's called an agent. Okay. It will have access to this. And then once it puts the plan, it will start executing the plan. It will, while executing, it will access the systems that it is given access to, retrieve information, and then it will look at are we close to the achieving our goal? And if it is not, it will go back and fix the plan by itself. And then execute again until it achieves the goal.
Amazing.
And while doing this, it will have memory.
Yes.
So it will remember, when I did this plan last time to have this goal, I made this mistake. I'm not going to make it again. What does that remind you of, Alaa?
It reminds me of humans learning.
Exactly. That's how we as humans work. You're giving a task. You first plan it in your head. You have access and you go execute it on the systems. Then halfway in the journey, you find out, it's not working. I need to do something else. You roll back, you fix your plan again in your head, you execute it and you achieve the goal. And next time you're asked the same task,
you will never try the first failed.
You will not do the failed attempt again and fail and fix it. You will go from where you learned.
Absolutely.
And that's really the power of agents. And agents can be triggered manually. So you can ask an agent to start the goal and do it, or they can be autonomous, running 24/7 on their own. Yeah.
Awesome. So I can extract two definitions of agent from what you said. Number one, an agent is an AI that can plan, act, and remember, rather than just an AI that can answer questions like ChatGPT. Number two, your definition of agent or a true agent is related to the degree of autonomy. Instead of micromanaging an employee and asking it to walk step by step, you give this agent a bigger role, an objective, and then the agent itself will divide it into 10 smaller goals or 10 smaller steps that reach to the big goal, and they can always measure their progress in the direction of the goal and change course and correct course or change plan if needed.
That's correct. And the core of an agent is LLMs. And that's why they are smart. They can do these jobs. And if an agent...
But not all LLMs are agents.
No.
Okay. So agents are based on LLMs.
They will have
not
core
all
of them
LLMs
or multiple LLMs.
Yeah.
But also, if there might be a fleet of agents, a team, actually. Future organizations will have teams that are composed of agents only. There will be a supervisor agent, which will take the goal from you. And then it will ask sub-agents working under it in that team to do the tasks. Because the task might be too big for one agent to do. So that's the supervisor, who is our orchestrator. And then there is subject matter expert agents doing the work. And they all report their work. They talk to each other and to the supervisor, who is responsible at orchestrating the work and then getting the result done and delivering it to you.
Amazing.
So this is the future of organizations. Teams which are humans, agents, or even hybrid.
Beautiful.
So don't be surprised that in the future, one of your colleagues will be called Alaa or about them, but that Alaa is not a real person. That Alaa will have access to email, so they will send email in their name, they will receive, respond, etc., as if they are a real person, but they don't exist in the real world. And even I would go one step further, because if you want to calculate the cost of a human versus an agent, that agent cost will be the cost of the software, electricity, GPUs, and what it will consume to run in terms of tokens or whatever it is. So you have to put a cost for it.
Absolutely.
Because eventually you want to compare what this agent will do versus what a human will do.
But tokens are going down in price. Technology is going down in price. So we talked about agents, which is where the technology is going. I would now like to bring all of this to the best possible closure, to look ahead. And looking ahead, I want to build on your examples when you said planning and then remembering and changing course and remembering the failed and the successful attempts reminds you of humans. But humans actually have the ability to learn generally and learn continually. And today, we don't have an AI that can do general learning, and we don't do an AI that does continual learning. So here's what I'm going to say. First, I'm going to ask Layla to join us. I'm going to ask you this question: where do you see this research going, and why we're still stuck? And then I'm going to ask, after your answer, I'm going to ask Layla to weigh in.
Hey there, Alaa.
Hi, Layla.
Hello, Alaa. Great to hear from you again. Let me know what we're diving into today.
So we're shooting a podcast episode, and we have with me my friend, the best storyteller in the market, Hani Khalaf. Can you say hi to Hani?
Absolutely. Hi, honey. It's great to virtually meet you. I hear you're the best storyteller around, so I'm sure this podcast is going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It already was. We're wrapping up, but I want to ask Hani one last question before we close. I want you to listen carefully to his answer, and then I want you to weigh in on his answer. How does that sound?
That sounds like a fun plan. I'm all ears and ready to hear Honey's wisdom. Once he shares his answer, I'll be happy to jump in with my thoughts.
Okay. So, Hani, why is the state of the art in AI research today unable to create to solve continual learning or general learning? Why is it easier for babies to do continual general learning, and it's extremely difficult problem to crack for AIs?
It's a very tough question, actually, Ala. I think what we're doing today is asking AI to learn specific tasks. We are directing the AI engine to learn specific tasks. And that's why it is limiting itself to learning that task and learning it properly. Another issue I found is the learning happens based on the data that you are giving to the AI to learn. And the data that I might give to AI might be different from somebody else. I might give something like, let's say, the wealth of information, learning, which will be much better, whereas somebody else might give a different data set, different data, and a different learning outcome will come. With humans, it's different. It's continual. The data sources that you are collecting from are much, much bigger. Especially if you mention babies, voices, your vision, what you hear, different languages, even sometimes the subtle, behaviors, a look from somebody, etc., is a piece of information. We are not at a stage yet where we can give this kind of data for AI engines.
Okay, Layla, what do you think?
Well, that was a fantastic answer from Vani. And I have to say, I completely agree with him. Humans, especially babies, are soaking up information from the entire world around them in this incredibly fluid and continuous way. They just absorb all these nuances of life and they don't have to be told, hey, learn this particular task in a vacuum. For AI, we're still at a point where we feed it very specific sets of data, and it's really great at learning those sets of tasks, but it's not yet living in a world of just ambient, continuous data like we do. So that makes the general learning puzzle a lot trickier. In short, I think Hani nailed it. We're just not yet at that stage.
But Layla, my question to you is what are you missing? I mean, if I want you as Layla to start having the capability of general learning, a variety of tasks and skills, but also continual learning without forgetting. What are we missing in order to give you this ability? Are we missing a breakthrough or 5 or 10 in science? Or is it just a problem of scaling? We just need to train you on more GPUs and more data. What do you think?
That's a really interesting question, Ala. And honestly, I think it's a mix of both. We're definitely looking at needing some scientific breakthroughs because the way humans learn continuously is still not fully replicated in AI. We just don't have that kind of flexible memory or that ability to adapt to completely new tasks on the fly in a general way. At the same time, there's also a scaling aspect. If you give me or any AI massively more data and more computational power, we might get closer to something like that. But it still won't fully solve the problem without new ideas about how to make AI learn more like humans do. So I think we're waiting on a combination.
Okay. Thank you, Layla.
You're very welcome. I'm always here for these fun chats.
And thank you, Hani Khalaf. It's always a pleasure. Whether I'm having a coffee with you or whether we're just having casual discussion. I always learn from you. You always make me think. You raise a lot of questions in my head and you give a lot of answers. But most importantly, you're one of those few people that make my brain exercise more than anyone. So thank you for being that person, and thank you for sharing your insights in our podcast.
You're most welcome, Ala. It's absolutely a pleasure to chat with you. You are one of the few people I enjoy chatting with on technology.
Awesome.
Because you always challenge my brain and you bring up ideas which might be philosophical in some way, like the last question, but it triggers me actually to think.
Yeah. We're gonna have this is the first appearance on the podcast, definitely not the last appearance of Hani Khalaf on AI with Alaa. With this, we wrap up and we'll catch you on the next episode of AI with Alaa. Stay tuned.